Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach, and I am a coach for self-differentiation, and I've been working with clients and folks for 40 some years. I hope you'll join my YouTube channel and click the bell to get the new videos that come out. This video today is entitled Resisting Relationship Pings. I hope that you will join me for an upcoming workshop I'm having on April 10th on Saturday. It will be on Zoom. You can sign up at my website, and that's listed below. And I hope you'll take a look at my website. There's some workshops on there you can already view and watch. This video, Resisting Relationship Pings, is about how do we deal with people pinging us and us feeling the ping. I've been working with clients recently, and they've been doing great work with the reducing the pinging and also learning how to respond in a more self-differentiated, calm way. First of all, I want to say, of course, there are some positive pings. You know, when I tell my child that I love them and I mean that out of my heart and I'm not doing it in a manipulative way, then I'm pinging them in a positive way. And that's certainly a good thing. Children need to be pinged in terms of their self-esteem and love and nurturing. Also, when we become adults, while it is certainly preferable and enjoyable to be loved and feel special by someone else, it's nice to hear that and be pinged by them in a positive way about how they feel about us. Today, I don't want to talk about the positive pings. I want to talk about the negative pings. When we get caught, when we get stuck, when we're not sure how to respond, or we find ourselves responding in the same old ways and can't get out of that trap with relationships, family, and folks who are around us. Enmeshment pings are quite common in dysfunctional families. They are that over closeness in which we just briefly act out the family dance. We briefly act out my family role. They act out their family role. And we do that when we get pinged. They ping us, we get reactive, then we ping them, and they get reactive. And then this dance of toxic family life, this dance of pinging goes on. And actually, it's a way to maintain the status quo. Because if we just ping like we've always pinged, nothing changes. The relationship won't change. The good news is I don't have to change them. I have to work on changing me. And when I get pinged, and to use different steps in this dance I have in the relationship. All relationships have a pull or push to them. Every relationship has some pull or push. And some relationships have much more pull or push than others. And the really toxic relationships or dysfunctional relationships have a great deal of pull or push in the relationship. For us to be able to resist this helps us to grow up and be stronger, be less pinged, and be able to respond in a more adult way, and also make adult choices about the relationship. Because if I stay in a pinged relationship, and then I stop being pinged and I'm able to be self-differentiated, if they don't respond, then I can make choices about what kind of boundaries and what I want to do with regard to the relationship. And that's an adult choice that I have to make. I need to accept the limitations of the relationship and maybe even have greater boundaries or distance in it. Becoming more aware of being pinged is important. And I thought I would share some of my own. I'll just share some of my own experiences of pinging. I get pinged when I feel we're discussing a topic or issue I really don't want to discuss. I feel pinged if a boundary is violated. And I'll give you some examples from my own family or what in a moment. But when boundaries are violated, or someone's micromanaging me, then I tend to get pinged. That's a pinging area. When others are intense, not calm, and are reactive, that tends to be pinging. A pinging that I may experience from them. When someone is avoiding or ghosts me or avoids me, then again, that can be a pinging that I can experience. Others who are angry or irritable can be a challenge for pinging. Even too much niceness or too much caretaking by them or by others can also create a ping in me that I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. Red flag, red flag. And when I say pinging, I mean, I want to identify the red flags. When I say pinging, I want to be aware, red flag has gone up. When others want to persuade me of something, that generally is a red flag for me or a possible pinging. When others may disrespect me, that's a red flag, and that will be their attempt to ping me. Others can also attempt to ping you through emotional blackmail. If you don't call your brother, our family will never be better. If you don't call your mother, then she's going to feel very hurt. Well, that's emotional blackmail. And I always know that's a ping. That's someone attempting to ping me. So all of those are attempts to ping me. Now, what experience do I look for within me that tells me pinging is occurring? I want to react. I'm not calm. Those are a couple of ways that are red flags for me that I'm feeling the ping. I feel shame or guilt when there's nothing I've done wrong. There's nothing that I have done, but yet I feel shame or guilt. And that's a red flag for a ping, that it's occurring. Also, if someone immaturely cuts off from me, when that friend cuts off from you and you have no idea what you did, you have no clue as to what's going on. They have withdrawn from you to ping you so that you will be pinged. And that's a red flag. And we're going to learn how we can maybe manage that. When my anxiety goes up, and again, if my anxiety goes up or if I feel reactive, then I know I'm in the pinged area. If I feel fear, I am pinged. If I'm in a dynamic with a relationship in which it's either black and white or win or lose, then I know, they're pinging me. Because black and white, win or lose, is often, problematic. When I feel, when I'm relating to others, pressured to worry or be concerned more than I want to about an issue, about a person, about an event, when I feel pressure, when I'm feeling that pressure to be more concerned or worried about it than I want to be, then I'm probably being pinged. Now, I realize that in relationships, they can be very fluid, and it's a learned process. We learn these skills slowly and learn how to use them. And what I advise people to do is to rehearse ahead of time as much as you are able. For example, if I need to go and tell my dad that I'm switching jobs and I don't think he will like that, then I'm already rehearsing and preparing for that interaction with him. And I also want to rehearse or prepare my answers. What am I going to answer? And with what I think he would mostly say. And many of us are as I work with clients, they almost always know what the other person would say or how they would respond. So we already have that information. We want to prepare ourselves with our responses. Now, I understand that something in a relationship can happen very quickly and we haven't had a chance to prepare for it. I understand that. And we don't have to be perfect at doing this. This is not about being perfect. This is about getting better. Progress, not perfection. And so there's sometimes, I might just get reactive, and then the better I get, the more quickly I can calm down and center myself rather than just stay in the emotional polarization within the relationship system that just keeps pushing and pulling me, which I don't want to have happen. And the first thing I usually do when I'm feeling like I want to react, want to defend, feel shame or guilt, my anxiety goes up or I feel disrespected, the first thing I want to do is calm down. I want to calm down and become a 66-year-old man, a 66-year-old adult. That's how old I am, at least at the time of this video. And I want to calm down. I need to be the adult that I am. Now, if you can't be totally calm, be calmer. Work on being calmer. And that's our work, to calm down. If someone disrespects me, what do I need to do to calm down? Because I need to get serious about what's going on here. Not overly serious, but I want to get maturely serious about this. Because overly serious can also be a reactivity. So, if we can calm down even a little bit, and I've had all my clients talk about how much more helpful it is for them to just practice on staying calm. They're able to talk better, respond better, think better, feel less intensity. You will be able to handle yourself better. When I have starting to feel this red flag of pinging going on, I want to push my thinking versus my feelings. I want to push my thinking versus my feelings. I also advise people to practice option C. Option A, in this pinging environment that we have, it's the way I've always done it. Out of my anxiety, out of my fear, out of my shame. That's the way I've always responded. And I become a victim. And so I'm loaning self to the other person. So they feel up and I feel down. I'm loaning self to them. That's A. B is I'm going to borrow self from them because I'm upset, angry, reactive. And this is the way I've always done it due to reactivity, and I become the Viking rather than the victim. Well, you're just a stupid, no good son of a blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just me borrowing self from them because I don't need them to be that for me to be myself. I don't need them to, and I don't need to say that. And what actually it does is it just keeps the status quo going. They're reacting, I'm reacting, no change. It's just another cycle of the reactivity. And then the option C is a be self response, a self-differentiated response. So being a self, being the adult that I want to be with a family member, a friend, a coworker, whatever, is that's my goal. Let me give you an example. I was talking to someone a while back, and they were talking about they had a narcissistic mother, and she was very intrusive, very micromanaging, very enmeshing, very easily. I mean, she could have been borderline, I don't know, but very hurt if he didn't tell her everything about his life. And he was planning on moving from one country to another. And his mom got all micromanagey. And by the way, he's like 40 years old. His mom gets all micromanagey about, well, what about your lease? And what are you going to do about your lease? And, and he was just so like, wait a minute, why are we talking about my lease? I mean, that's for me as an adult to deal with. And so he was practicing because he would then get angry with her. And getting angry with someone doesn't necessarily change the system. It's just a different dynamic of the same system. So I want to stay calmer if someone is either intruding on my boundaries or being overly intrusive, or, and parents and other family members can do that. I've done that myself, and so I have to watch and monitor what I'm doing. And so when he was angry, he was able to re-practice that and re-practice those skills of being able to ask mom, hey mom, are you up? He could already tell she was already exercised. She was already intense about this lease thing, which he hadn't even brought up. It wasn't even an issue for him. He was just notifying her about what he was going to plan on doing. And now she got pinged, and she has her own anxiety or whatever's going on. And if you notice the anxiety in other people, then I want to counter it with calmness, not with a mirroring of the anxiety or intensity. And so he was able to practice calming down and going, Mom, are you concerned about my lease, or are you upset about my lease or what I'm going to do with that? She said, well, yes. And he was able to practice, well, Mom, I'm not upset about it. If you want to be upset, that's fine. But I'm not upset about it. And by the way, how are you and Dad doing? And change the subject. That's what an adult would do. That's how an adult would handle that. And I realize we have a lot of family of origin stuff running around in us. So we have to practice doing that so that we can grow beyond our family dynamics and family system. I've used the example of my mother, my own mother, who was in the nursing home. Her mind was all there. She was relatively healthy, just had problems walking, and she was in her 90s. I'm in my 60s, and she's all upset about my haircut, that it needs to be cut. And I'm going, well, and we were talking about something totally unrelated to haircut, and she just broke in my conversation and said, oh, Jerry, when are you going to get a haircut? Do you see your hair? It's like, what? What are we? My hair? And again, she's stepping over the boundaries of adulthood. I know she's a parent. Parents tend to do that. I understand that. But I could also tell she just got pinged all of a sudden, was anxious about my haircut. And what everybody would think if they would see my hair and it was long in the back, they'd just think something horrible. Well, that's, I'm not sure. And I wasn't worried about that. So I said, well, Mom, are you worried about my hair and what other people might think? Because I am not worried about that. It doesn't bother me. Obviously, it bothers you, and that's okay. If you want to be bothered, you can be bothered all you want. You can spend all your time being frustrated or upset or worried or thinking, what will people think? Or what will people think about you as a parent, which I think is partly what she was worried about, that she didn't raise me right or something. It's like, I'm 60-some years old. I'm not sure they're going to attribute that to you. I really don't. And I said, but it doesn't bother me. Now, what were we talking about, Mom? I think there's also another pinging that goes on. And like I mentioned, when somebody wants me to be more concerned or worried about something that I don't want, or don't feel like I'm all that worried or concerned about, it's like, well, Jerry, don't you know mom has heart problems? Yes, I do know that. I was there as a caregiver for many years. I understand that fully. Well, I mean, I don't know what she's going to do. And I'm going, well, are you upset? Are you concerned about her? Are you worried about her heart problems? Because I'm not. That's not on my radar right now. Well, what do you mean you're not worried? Isn't that your mother? No. It sounds like you're confusing love or concern with worry. Worrying is not going to make mom better. It's not going to change the medical condition. And it's not going to help the doctors do what they need to do, nor any other thing. It's only going to drain me of energy. And so, I think even my mom asked me, well, don't you worry about me? And I was able to later in life be able to say, not really, Mom, no. Well, I thought you cared. Oh, no, I do care. And I am concerned. But I refuse, and I'm not going to worry, because that won't do anything. That will only fuse us and enmesh us. And worry is an enmeshment state, and not very productive one. It doesn't mean I wouldn't help. I helped Mom for many years. And if she had medical problems, I certainly was affected by that. But I'm not going to worry about that because I don't think that has any power to make anything better. And actually, in my case, it was like, if you don't worry, you don't love me. No, I love you and I care about you. I'm just refusing to worry. That there's a difference. And I think there was also conversations. I have a granddaughter. She's had her own issues. She's a teenager. And like, are you worried about Ayla? Aren't you worried about Ayla? What's going to happen with Ayla? And it's like, well, I hope everything works out. I'm not naive, and I expect there to be problems when she's a teenager. I expect that. But I don't know that me worrying about it is going to fix it. I do love her and I do care about what would happen to her. But that's not equivalent to love. Worry is not equivalent to love. And I think many families, that is the case. And in fact, I wanted to end today with thinking about these family messages and beliefs that are part of our many family of origins and a part of the family of origin super self. And one is worry equals love. Pinging equals love. If we're not pinging, we're not in a relationship. Then you're just cold and uncaring. So pinging equals love. And then reactivity equals love. Anger means you really care. Disrespecting your boundaries means I care about you if I'm disrespecting your boundaries. Or another statement, I can talk mean to you because you are family. Because you're my son, you're my brother, you're my nephew, I can talk mean to you. So see how it puts you in a favored position if I talk to you that way? I don't want to be in that favored position that way. And all of these are dysfunctional beliefs that families have. And you might check and see how much worry equals love. Pinging equals love. Reactivity equals love. Anger means you care, etc., etc. I wanted to share these thoughts with you today. I hope it was a help to you. I hope you will join my workshop on April 10th, 2021, and join this join my Facebook, Instagram, and join this YouTube channel. I really do appreciate all the viewers that I have and all the comments that you have made. I have a lot of great people who follow my videos, and I feel very blessed and very honored and fortunate to have that. Well, I thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've been helping people who grew up in narcissistic, toxic, and dysfunctional families. And I have worked with them to get their family dysfunction out of them and become their true selves they were never allowed to be. Today, I want to talk about 9 things I wish I knew 60 years ago about healing from family dysfunction. And I want to share these with you. The number one thing that has probably done the most to change my life, change my thinking, change my emotional life, help me to survive very difficult times, and also heal from trauma. And that is self-differentiation. So number one, learning that self-differentiation was the key. And you may think, well, I don't really know what that is, or that's fine. If you don't know what it is, I have plenty of videos where I begin to talk about that. And I'll even talk about what self-differentiation is now and how it's missing from most of the advice out there. Because I knew that my self-esteem was bad. I did kind of know that. And I did feel bad about myself. Good codependent, religiously addicted, messed up in many ways, mentally and emotionally. And I did not know how my self-esteem should go up. How do you make it go up? What do you do to make it go up? And of course, I went on a quest to try to figure that out. Going to school for pre-law, music, and then into psychology, pastoral counseling, marriage and family therapy, and on from there to learn how to heal myself is really what I was doing. I knew things weren't great in my family growing up. I wanted to be not my family. But how do I become not my family? Because that's all I knew. That's all the programming and experience that I had had. I had not grown up in anybody else's family. I'd only grown up in my family. There was a lot of simplified, superficial advice out there that was good. I would even say was good advice, but it didn't get to the core, I felt. And that underlying broken paradigm, it just didn't go deep enough. Again, the advice may not have been bad advice, but it didn't go to the heart of things. And it tended more for me to be more superficial. No one was talking about how relationships work, how relationships are systems with pushes and pulls, and also how my dysfunction was caught up in all of that and in all the relationships in my life. In beginning to discover that, I felt a greater empowerment when I began to learn about self-differentiation. Simply put, self-differentiation is being yourself, being your true self, while not taking on the toxicity or expectations of others, and just being you. And I didn't mean in a mean way, in an arrogant way, but learning to be you as a solid self, and you're not guided by other people's expectations, other people's approval, likes of you, dislikes of you, even their toxicity or anger or frustration. That's not guiding your inner core. Second of all, don't change others. Focus on changing your emotional location, which basically means change you, not them. I think I try to explain to people, and I talk more about it in other works that I have and workshops and programs that I've created for those who follow me, that when you become more emotionally detached, that's a change of your emotional location. If you have a puzzle and all of the family is in this puzzle and all the pieces fit together, if one person in the puzzle becomes more detached and more a real self, that changes their location in the puzzle. And then others in the puzzle have to shift and change around to either force you or want you to come back, reject you so there's just a hole missing, or they come to adapt to the new you. But anytime you make that mental and emotional change, a paradigm change, then you're changing emotional location. And that's very critical for how you experience the world. If I give up feelings of guilt and shame and shift my emotional location in the family, then what happens is when I give up that guilt and shame, it shifts that location in the family. I'm not in the family in the same way. If I waved a magic wand and said you're going to go to your family dinner, gathering, whatever, and you cannot feel guilt or shame, do you think that would change something? It would certainly change something for you. My hunch is it would change something for them, or at least they would be alerted that something is different here. Because often we will act and react out of our guilt and shame, which is so commonly programmed into us in dysfunctional families. And so we then shift our place in that emotional location. Another way to think about it is you have a mobile. And a mobile is all those pieces. You remember you may have built some of those when you were in junior high or whatever in art class. And you have all these pieces on there. And if you move one piece, it shifts all the others. Family operates the same way. You change one piece, all the other pieces must adjust to that somehow. And so we want to learn to change our emotional location, which is shifting your position in the mobile for you to become healthier and more self-differentiated. And I learned that that was very important. Number 3, healing takes time, and that it's not good to run after quick fixes. In other words, I have to work to learn about how I work in my family, how I work in the emotional process of my family, how they work in me, how I work in them, how they react to me, how I react to them. I must learn some of these very important dynamics. They are often simple dynamics because it's not complicated. You already know this information. You just haven't been alerted to it or known how to use it effectively to grow, to be yourself. Because if I know how things operate between the two of us, whether you do or not, I still have an advantage or a leverage at that point. And I can begin to be myself more in this dance that we do. Whether you know how you operate in the system or not, I can still change me in the dance and learn new steps. So, what is a quick fix? I think, simply put, a quick fix does not take in systems dynamics or systems perspective. For example, a quick fix might be somebody telling you, oh, just go to them and talk it out. Go to your narcissistic father and just talk that out. I mean, don't we have a society where you need to talk about things? It's good to get things out in the open. It's good to clear the air. It's good. Well, yes, that's a good way of thinking and doing. However, if we know more about how narcissism works in relationships, if we know more about how your family operates, then we probably wouldn't want to take that advice in that simple, quick fix way. It probably will be a disaster. And that's why I hesitate in giving people different types of advice, because they many times tell me, well, just tell me what to do. Well, it's not just about telling you what to do, because you could go do it, but you're going to go fly a 747 and you haven't even learned how to fly a Cessna yet. And so learning systems thinking, learning how you operate in the system, which you can learn because you have all the information, you're just not used to looking at it. And once you look at it, you'll go, oh, that's simpler than I thought. And the whole world begins to open up in a different way. And so that's an example of a quick fix. Now, with regard to quick fixes, maybe going and talking it out is just fine if you don't have a highly charged emotional relationship. like, say, a narcissistic relationship or dysfunctional one. If you have a very close friend who loves you dearly and you both get along really well, you both respect each other, well, then go talk it out. You don't have to go any deeper than that. But if it's a much more highly charged situation, you've got to know more to be able to fly that 747 and not just the Cessna if you're just going to run into it and try to do it. And I think that we don't want to go and just confront situations we don't like. Why is that? Am I telling people not to be assertive? Not to express their feelings? Not to express their beliefs? Yeah, exactly. That is what I'm saying. Don't do that. Why am I telling you not to do that in highly charged situations? Because if you understand systems, the more the relationship is charged with anxiety, the less butting of heads you should be doing. We have to wait until that anxiety goes down before we can have that kind of discussion, or it won't go well. And in fact, what we would want to learn about before we went and did all this confrontation is understand the decades of family of origin programming that we've had, understand our level of self-esteem and self-confidence, our understanding our anxious, dysregulated emotional process. When are we going to get reactive? And do you know when you're going to get reactive? Do you know how to not get reactive? And when we understand that the deep need for their acceptance and approval is still present, I still need their acceptance and approval, then don't go confront a narcissist, because you're going to get neither. It's going to become real bad. When we have this continued deep need for them to change, and we'd like to change them, we have difficulty thinking clearly when emotionality runs high within us. And if we easily feel shamed and guilt, which are what I call systems feelings, when we feel those feelings, and if we are easily have access to those, unfortunately, or they occur quite readily, then it's not good to just take quick fixes, go and challenge someone, just go talk it out. Here, just go tell them the Bible verse they need to know so they know they're wrong and you're right. Don't challenge them because they made fun of your career or your. We have to be wiser than that. And one of the things, since I come from a religious background, be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. And self-differentiation is the way to become wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. It really did blend into what I believed about what I wanted to become. Number 4, your feelings are not always valid. I always learn so many times from so many books. All your feelings are valid. They're all equal. They're all equally important. If you believe that, you are going to make lots of mistakes. Because and follow your heart and follow your feelings. Do you know how often your feelings mislead you? You think you grew up in a dysfunctional family and all of your feelings are valid, appropriate, real, and true? No. Your feelings are not, many of them are not. And in fact, I had to come to learn to understand the difference between systems feelings and my real feelings. I didn't know that all feelings shouldn't be honored. All are valid, but not because they are true. In other words, if you have systems guilt and feel guilt, and that's feeling guilt over nothing, you haven't done anything wrong, there's no reason for the guilt, but you feel guilty because they want you to feel guilty. It's still a valid feeling, but it's not a true feeling. You don't have true guilt. In other words, you haven't done anything wrong. It's there to control your behavior, your thinking, your feeling, your actions. It's there to control all those things. And that's how partly the family system programs us. So learning the difference that not all feelings are valid and true. I didn't know that. I just thought they all were. So every feeling, no matter how systems oriented it was versus my true feelings, I just took it all as it's all valid and it's all good. If I'm feeling shame, then I'm feeling shame. No, you are feeling shame. I mean, I'm not denying that. But what is the source of the shame? Is it because you feel shame, or is it because you're supposed to feel shame? And one is an individual model, one is a systems model. And I'll talk more about that in other videos. Number 5, your boundaries are only as good as your inner boundaries. So external or physical boundaries, whatever kind of limitations you have with other people in your life, are only as good as your inner boundaries. And I remember reading a study, it talked about assertiveness training. And I remember back 300 years ago when we were all talking about assertiveness training, and that was the big thing. Assertiveness training is great. There's nothing wrong with assertiveness training. The problem is what they found in the research is someone will take assertiveness training, do very well, and then it will just trail off. And why does it do that? Because the inner self-esteem, the inner boundaries or detachment was not present. And so you can learn to do certain things, but it's going to be hard to maintain it if you don't work with what's going on in here first. And so, again, I attempted many times to set boundaries, but I was so filled with low self-worth, need for acceptance, intense guilt, anxious reactivity, and all those things have to do with inner boundaries. And if I have all those things going on, my boundaries are probably not going to go very well. I'm going to have a hard time thinking them up. I'm going to have a hard time sharing them. And I'm going to have a hard time insisting on those boundaries. Number 6, become okay with disappointing others. That's one of the things I wish I'd have known 60 years ago. That it's okay to disappoint others. That's called life. Have you, and as a good codependent, as I was, that, you're not supposed to disappoint other people. And it was too painful for me to disappoint someone else because it caused me too much upsetness. So then I would keep being the doormat or the overfunctioner. And again, the difficulty was it was so important for me to learn to disappoint. And really, to not disappoint others is to rescue them from their feelings. And so I needed to learn not to rescue other people from their feelings or their experience. And I remember going through chaplaincy training that was very, very tough training. It was very significant and a grind to go through. And the supervisor I had he was actually phenomenal, but he actually drove us absolutely nuts because we were just so novice at what we were doing, and he was quite experienced. And he would use that to help us learn and grow very quickly, but it was painful. And learning not to rescue the people that we were working with, patients who were dying, family members who are experiencing deep grief. It's not helpful to rescue. It's helpful to be alongside and be a support. But boy, that's tough to learn that when someone's really having a hard time. Or, as I've had for clients for 45 years, a client says, well, how do I do that, Jerry? I don't know how to do that. I'm just lost. Do I rush in and rescue and fix? No. I go, well, where did you learn that you don't know what to do? And where did you learn that you were lost? Let's go back there. Rather than me going, well, let me tell you exactly what you should do and do this and do this and do that. Let me rescue you. And then, of course, if it doesn't work, they're going to blame me. And that's just not a good dynamic between the coach or therapist and the client. It's not a good dynamic to have that. It doesn't mean I don't care. I know how it can feel to feel lost. I get that. But lost doesn't mean you cannot find yourself, if I can say it that way. You can be lost. You also can find yourself. because you are with yourself. You are yourself. But more on that later. Number 7, don't use normal rules for abnormal relationships. That was something I began to learn over these many years and how important that is. But that's also looking at it in the sense of more of a systems way of looking at it. And what I mean by that is, if you believe love your neighbor, okay, I think it's a wonderful thing. It's fabulous. It's a good injunction. It's a good law. It's a good, that's fine. However, how do you live that out with a malignant narcissist? How do you live it out? That can become really tricky. And if you use the standard rules or normal rules for families, for relationships, even the Bible in its normal use, you can become pretty abused and not for a good purpose. And so what we have to recognize is that, wait a minute, this is an abnormal relationship, and they may be abnormal or unwell or narcissistic or sociopathic or whatever. And I need to be careful about the rules I use and how I operate with them. If you had a good friend of yours who came up and said, hey, could you loan me $200? I just had a car problem. I had to pay that, and I just need some gas money for a week or two. Could you help me with that? Well, you might be willing to go, whoa, sure, let me see if I can help you with that. Now, that's kind of what normal people do, right? In a normal relationship. But in an abnormal relationship, someone may want to take advantage of you and may be looking to abuse you in some way. So in those situations, I may not loan the $200 or give them the $200 for their cash. So I'm using abnormal rules. I'm not going to help you because of the toxicity that's there, versus, oh, of course I'll help you because we have a normal kind of relationship that's more mutual. So I learned that I have to watch how I apply all of these rules and social norms that I've believed all my life and how they apply. And we have to be very careful about that. Yeah, in terms of normal rules, I always felt I had to accept and play by the rules others set. You set them, and then I need to play by them. However, they would act abnormally and in a toxic or abusive way and expect me to use conventional, healthy, and caring rules towards them. That's very unwise. It is very unwise to do that. And in fact, you will be enabling the toxicity. In other words, having a dynamic where they express, I won't respect you, but you should always respect me. I feel no empathy to help you, but you must always be kind and generous to me. That's kind of the using normal rules for abnormal relationships. Number 8, you are not responsible for others, even if they say you are. I always felt over-responsible for everyone. I just had a big, over-caring heart, I thought. But my caring at its core was not actually about them. It was actually about me. My guilt, my anxiety, my fears, my need for approval, my low self-esteem, because then I could use me caring for them to lift my self-esteem. And I'm not saying helping others doesn't improve depression and can help with self-esteem, but that's not the dynamic I'm talking about right now. It's that I would use that in a way that I felt over-responsible for others. Their feelings, however they felt, whatever they thought, it must be my responsibility. And came to learn that it really isn't. I have enough to deal with my own feelings, thoughts, beliefs, wishes, wants, preferences. I've got enough to deal with that without managing yours. And I would manage others all the time, and it just became overwhelming. Number 9, if you don't self-differentiate from your family, you are likely to remain stuck or in problematic systems or relationships. My stuckness for years was about not focusing more on me and about not going deep enough to address underlying relationship dynamics, meaning self-differentiation. I needed to go deeper to understand what was working rather than just a superficial understanding of what was going on. If you resonated with this video, I highly recommend joining my free training, Build the Real Self You Were Never Allowed to Have. See the link below, where I give you practical advice and tools to apply all of this to your own life and unique situation. Learning about and doing the work of self-differentiation will unlock many of your recovery efforts. Self-differentiation is the most effective way to become your true self, your strong self. Self-differentiation from your family of origin is the most powerful way to mature and heal, grow, and recover, because you can apply this way of thinking and feeling to all areas of your life. I hope that you will subscribe, like, comment. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise.